Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. Myself, Jack Grieve, Mark Langdon and Dan Childs in the studio today with Paddy Power's Emmett O'Keefe on the line to be talking about all of the weekend's Premier League action. We'll be taking a look into Europe for some of the boys' naps and also looking through the English football leagues to find you the best bets. And of course, we'll be looking at all of the week's news as well. And what better place to start, Mark, than with Jose Mourinho. The man is back, Poch's gone. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, would you want me to speak as a Spurs fan or as a journalist? What do you
Spurs
prefer?
fan, please.
Okay,
it's always more entertaining that way.
Okay, yeah, I mean, as a Spurs fan, I mean, I'm really sad to see Pochettino leave, and part of me is quite relieved for him that he does go with his reputation still high. I mean, just imagine if the season ends if it gets much worse, then maybe people still rewrite history on his time at Tottenham and the lack of trophies is brought up. He was, I think, a great human being. I think he represented the club fantastically well for 5.5 years. Took them to places that I didn't think I'd ever get to see Tottenham go. That moment between Lucas Moura scoring the winner in Amsterdam and Moussa Sissoko's handball in the final, that bit in between was certainly the greatest time I've had as a Tottenham fan. Yeah, it was amazing. Like just that knowing you're in the Champions League final, and it went on for weeks because there was that was just fantastic, and I just thank him very much for. I mean, he leaves the club in a much better place than when he took over. I think he's set standards that Tottenham probably didn't really, they wanted to achieve, but they didn't really get there. And, it's funny about the not winning a trophy because him and Klopp went into that Champions League final in exactly the same position. If Tottenham win the final, people saying that Klopp's not a good fit at Liverpool because, so I mean, it was, I understand why Tottenham did it because I think there had been a breakdown somewhere along the line. Maybe it started as far back as when Paul Mitchell left the club. There was definitely, I think, a relationship there that he had that was sort of between him and Daniel Levy. Once that departed, his press conference about maybe leaving after the Champions League final, probably ill-advised, one of the few mistakes he made, but he didn't make many in the 5.5 years, and he was, I think, just like a really great man. I saw Simon Thomas, the Sky, former Sky Sports presenter, sort of speaking about how when his wife died, he wrote him a letter. He didn't need to do that. No other Premier League manager did it. There was a local Tottenham journalist that when his father died, he pulled him aside and spoke to him.
Really?
So I mean, there's apart from what he did for the team, I think he represented the club in an amazing way.
Dan, that's sometimes overlooked in football, isn't it? The power that managers can have in terms of bringing together communities and making supporters excited to go to the games.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he was a thoroughly decent, he is a thoroughly decent human being. And
You hate him.
I think getting on to the Mourinho aspect, I think you can be very sad that Pochettino's gone and look back with a lot of great memories. I mean, the Man City one was probably until the Ajax one happened. That was like an unbelievable. I was on holiday at the time in Portugal, and I was just going absolutely crazy, crazy at Ericsson when he gave the ball away, and I'm thinking that the whole thing had been taken away. But no, that was probably the biggest low and the biggest high I can remember as a supporter. And then a month later, it was even surpassed. It's fantastic memories. But I think I agree with Mark that there must have been a big breakdown there, and things behind the scenes must have been a lot worse than everybody's aware of. And the fact that they're paying that amount of money to not just to pay him off, but to pay his coaching staff off and forego. There was talk of a £35 million compensation if another club had come in for him. Then the club are not going to do that unless they see a situation that they feel is beyond repair. I think it might, in the end, do both parties a favour. It may just have run its course, the relationship. He's still got his reputation intact where he can go off. I mean, I think his phone probably won't stop ringing. I wouldn't be surprised if clubs like Manchester United, Bayern Munich have already been in contact about the showing their interest for the future. And I think Spurs, ironically, his job there has been responsible in a way for his demise, because Spurs would never have been able to attract a manager of Mourinho's calibre before Pochettino arrived. He's taken the club to such heights that now Spurs are in a position with the financial muscle and the prestige where they can attract a top manager.
Definitely. I'm sure none of us quite know what went on behind the scenes, but what we do all know is that the start to Tottenham season certainly hasn't been as many would have predicted. With that being said, do you think this sacking is almost more predictable than some are making out?
For sure. I think some of the reporting that's gone on the last few weeks has talked about how after the Champions League final, Pochettino kind of left pretty abruptly to go to Barcelona to his apartment rather than kind of speaking to the squad. And there are indications this year that in certain games, like he wasn't even giving the team tactical instructions. There's definitely indications of that Pochettino had certainly checked out to some extent, and his certainly his relationship, the relationship between him and Daniel Levy has certainly deteriorated. I think it's just worth mentioning that from all the reporting I've read, the first two choices for the Tottenham job were Julian Nagelsmann from RB Leipzig and Brendan Rodgers, who are fairly progressive, kind of attacking, kind of modern ideas coaches. And for them to be your first two choices and then to appoint Jose Mourinho seems, I think, fairly muddled thinking. And I'm not sure. I know this has been suggested, kind of in a jovial way, that possibly it has appointing Mourinho is related to the Spurs Tottenham being on an Amazon documentary this season. But I honestly wouldn't rule that out. I think it's a slightly bizarre appointment, to be honest.
Well, Emmett, just for the viewers' kind of information, how is the market looking in terms of Poch's next club?
So Bayern Munich are currently favourites 17-10, Real Madrid 2-1, Man United 4-1, Arsenal 17-2, PSG 12-1, and 20-1 Bar.
Just really quick, Mark, I was surprised to see Man United that long. I know there isn't a vacancy there at the moment, but it just seemed like an obvious fit.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Bayern Munich, there is a vacancy there, and so they need to fill that, and so you can understand why they're favourites. I mean, if I'm Manchester United, I'm just saying thanks, Ollie. You can go back to being the super sub now. We've got the man we wanted, and he's cost us 35 million less than what it would have done if we would have got him. I mean, look, if you're Manchester United and you can make a massive upgrade, like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I would. They need to be probably as harsh and as swift as what Tottenham were, and get their business done. Not Ed Woodward style, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Brilliant. Let us know what you think at home, what you think of Tottenham's appointment of Jose Mourinho down in the comments section below. Without further ado, let's get straight into the Saturday footballing action. It kicks off with West Ham against Spurs on BT Sport. It's the early kickoff this Saturday. Emmett, how are Paddy Power pricing this one up?
So we've West Ham 3-1, draw 5-2, and Spurs 5-6.
Dan, how are you feeling?
I looked at the betting and I saw that Spurs have been backed off of the Mourinho arriving. I don't think that Tottenham should be any shorter because he's arrived at the club. I'm not so sure he's going to make an instant impact to how the team's going to play. So I think the draw would be my best prediction here. There's probably a bit less pressure on Spurs than there would have been had Pochettino been in charge of the club, because he'd have been going into the game thinking, if we lose, then my job's in trouble. So that takes the pressure off to an extent, and that's transferred a bit onto West Ham now. Pellegrini's quite near the top of the sack race, so he needs a result. I think Mourinho, first game, obviously he'd love a win. I don't think a draw will be such a shocking start. He's got the two home games coming up after that, Olympiacos at home, Bournemouth at home. And for West Ham's point of view, it's a game they never like to lose. And from Pellegrini's point of view, a draw wouldn't be a bad result for him. So I think that's a big runner, draw for me.
Emmett, do you think there could be a bit of a new manager bounce here for Spurs?
For sure, yeah. I think the market's certainly expecting it, as Dan intimated. But I tend to agree with Dan. I'd be still a bit sceptical of Spurs at the current price. They haven't won a game away from home this year, and I think they're vulnerable defensively in a way they haven't been in previous years. Toby Alderweireld certainly isn't the player he was. Danny Rose and Serge Aurier always have mistaken them. West Ham's form has been obviously fairly wretched, highlighted by their 3-0 loss away to Burnley, where substitute goalkeeper Roberto Jimenez is one of the kind of worst goalkeeper performances in many a year in the Premier League. Their options, they don't seem to have too many options with Fabianski out. There's talk that David Martin, the third choice keeper, whose father Alvin was a West Ham legend, might come in, but he only played 12 games in 2 years for Millwall, so I'm not sure there'll be a massive improvement. But we have much confidence in either team. I think West Ham double chance at just over even money is worth backing.
Mark, what's happened to West Ham? Because I watched them quite a bit earlier on in the season. They look like a very accomplished team.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them at Newcastle a few weeks ago, and they were terrible. And I'd mentioned I think the week after in the postcast about Roberto just being absolute joke in goal, and then he played like he did against Burnley. Last season, on expected goals, they massively overperformed, and one of the reasons for that was Fabianski. He was one of the top goalkeepers, if not the top goalkeeper in the Premier League, pound for pound. And you know that Alisson and Ederson are great at what they do, but I mean it's a different job. What Fabianski's doing, he was the Hammer of the Year, so he was their Player of the Season. So there was, I think it's a massive loss for him to be out. In saying all of that, I don't think Tottenham put sort of set-piece threat on a team like Burnley do, nor Newcastle. Newcastle are very good from set pieces. Tottenham, not that kind of team, if you like. So I think that Roberto, if he keeps in goal, or David Martin, probably have an easier time of it just from that kind of, being bombarded. I don't see that happening, even though, Jose Mourinho probably will change Tottenham's style slightly. And I think that West Ham or the draw double chance is the way to go. Tottenham have got a good record at the London Stadium. They've won their last 3 there, but it's always a battle for them, this fixture. They lost the reverse game at White Hart Lane. And Tottenham have only won 2 away Premier League matches in the whole of 2019. They were against teams that are no longer in the Premier League, in Fulham and Cardiff. I think Mourinho will have an impact on Tottenham. And I don't think it's anywhere near as bad a signing as what some people are suggesting, but I think this is a tricky start.
Yeah, certainly a tricky start. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. We're going for a quick break and we'll be right back for the 3 o'clock fixtures.
I'm Jose Mourinho. I know a thing or two about being special. English Manager of the Year 3 times, special. Winning the daily jackpot on Paddy Power games, not special.
Understood, Jose. Yes, someone wins an average £40,000 jackpot every single day. So if you win, don't think you're special. Daily Jackpots by Paddy Power Games. Jackpots must be awarded by 11 p.m. and vary from day to day. Jackpot is shared with other operators. Available on selected games. T's and C's at paddypower.com. 18 plus BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. Myself, Jack Reeve, Mark Langdon and Dan Childs with me in the studio, and Paddy Power's Emmet O'Keefe with us on the line. Let's go straight through the 3 o'clock Saturday games then, gents. And let's start with Bournemouth against Wolves, 2 teams who like to play on the front foot, that's for sure. Emmet, let's get your prices and also how you think this game's going to play out.
So Bournemouth 17-10, the draw 9-4, and Wolves 6-4. Wolves' prices has shortened quite a bit in the lead up to the game, and their form has certainly been impressive in their last couple of matches, beating Villa comfortably and then having the better of the XG at Arsenal. But I'm expecting a tight game here. Bournemouth's defence is much improved from previous years, and Wolves are fairly tight at the back as well. So under 2.5 goals at 4-5 is the way I'd look here.
Mark, I was going to say that I thought this would be full of goals. Emmet disagreeing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go with Emmet as well. I don't rate your opinions, Jack, but I just think I've got the draw down in this game. Bournemouth have only lost at home to Manchester City, and I think they have improved defensively, probably reined it in, that attacking instinct. Wolves are on a really good run, but they have drawn 7 times in the Premier League already this season. They couldn't put Newcastle away the other week in an away match. I like Wolves. If I was going on the draw no bet, I'd probably edge towards them, but I think the draw's the bet.
Dan, what about you?
Bournemouth for me, home advantage, been a little bit underestimated here. Both on 16 points in the league. Wolves are not quite as good against non-top Big Six teams as they are against Big Six teams, so take a chance on Bournemouth, who have only lost at home to Man City this season.
Up next is Arsenal versus Southampton, 2 teams who maybe haven't had the start of the season as they would have liked. Emmet, prices here, mate?
Arsenal 4-9, draw 7-2, and Southampton 11-2. Both teams obviously out of form here. I think if Arsenal were to lose here, the Arsenal fans would properly revolt. And I think Emery's position would come under serious pressure. Obviously, I think Southampton are badly out of form. I thought the Man City narrow defeat might have been somewhat of a progression, but they were battered by Everton in their last Premier League fixture. So it's hard to have confidence in them. The way I'd look here for a bet would be Moussa Djenepo to score anytime. Some bookmakers have him at 7-1. I think that's worth the bet. He's a very, very talented player who's been unlucky with injury this year. But in only 2 starts, he's already scored a couple of goals. I think he'll get plenty of space in the counter-attack here.
Mark, this might be the impossible question to answer, but what do Arsenal need to do in order to get some of them fans back on board?
I think they probably sacking Unai Emery would be the first thing. I think just in terms of maybe less drastic action is to play forward a bit more. He's quite negative, and he's got. I mean, it doesn't. I understand he wants to protect the defence, but if your strength is going forward, then I think you're probably better off trying to outscore teams. Whereas now he's so cautious, and yeah, I think it's unnecessarily cautious because you've got them, just let the forwards go and win your matches. And I don't think you're not going to get up to Man City or Liverpool doing that. But Chelsea, just by being adventurous, and playing to their strengths, have actually done very well. But I'm sort of edging towards this sort of cautious Emery line for my bet, which is Arsenal to win by 1 goal. It's what they've done in all 4 of their Premier League victories this season. Southampton only lost by 1 at Manchester City and Tottenham. They seem to always have a hard game, Southampton. I don't know when the fixture list is going to become kinder to them, but this is another tough one, and both managers are under pressure, so it may not be a classic.
Dan, surely Arsenal have enough here, don't they?
Yep, I think they will. I'm going to go Arsenal half-time, full-time. They're very strong at home, haven't lost at home all season. Southampton, I thought they played all right as well, Arsenal at Leicester. For 65 minutes, I thought they looked just as likely to win as Leicester did. Got a little bit overlooked because of the way the game finished. And Southampton are on a miserable run, 1 point in 7. They were awful in that game against Everton. Should have lost by a lot more than 2-1. So I think they're on a terrible run, and I think Hasenhüttl might not last much longer.
Wow, yeah, agree with Dan there. Brighton Leicester up next. Leicester's march in the Premier League continues. Emmett, what are we thinking here?
So Brighton are 13-5, the draw is 12-5, and Leicester evens. A couple of injury notes here. Lewis Dunk's out of suspension, and Leandro Trossard has been very, very impressive for Brighton. Pulled out of the Belgian squad with injury, so he may not be fit. He would definitely be a loss for Brighton. On Leicester's side, James Maddison may be out with a calf injury, who'd be a pretty significant absence there as well. I think Leicester's price a bit short here. As the lads have talked about in previous podcasts, their results aren't quite backed up by their statistics. And I think Brighton have been very impressive this year. I think they'd be closer to maybe even 5th in the league. They had a couple of early red cards against Newcastle and against Villa and Southampton earlier in the season. I think Brighton double chance at 4-5 is the way to go here.
Mark, every time we're on this postcast together, you're always saying Leicester is achieving well above their expected goals, that it's going to come to an end soon, but they keep on winning.
I did also actually saying they did that when they won the league at 5,000 to 1. Yeah, they do. I agreeing with sort of what's already been said today in that game against Arsenal, after an hour, I don't think you would have fancied Leicester necessarily to go on and win the game. I mean, Jamie Vardy is just super efficient at the moment.
Great celebrations as well.
Yes, but he's putting up numbers that are just really difficult to maintain. Now, maybe he will do it. But I was looking at both teams to score, actually, in this game, because Brighton have changed their style, as everybody knows, under Graham Potter. And if you have a look at the games at home particularly, they scored in all of them, bar Southampton when they had the early red card, 2+ against Tottenham and Everton as well. So, decent teams there that probably... Certainly pre-season, you wouldn't have said Leicester were any better than. I know they're on a brilliant run at the moment. So in terms of that, Lewis Dunk, I think is I really like him at Brighton. Leicester have got a lot of quality in that final third. I think I probably edge towards laying Leicester, but I keep on doing that, and they keep on winning. So I'll go both teams to score.
Dan, I was down at Brighton a few weeks ago, and we all know that Brighton have changed the way they're playing, but they looked incredibly tight at the back as well. A compact team. Yeah. It's not going to be easy for Leicester, is it?
Decent side, I think. Brighton. Looking at them now, you're thinking maybe top 12 could be achievable for them. I'm going to go for a draw here. I just think Leicester are a little bit too short, especially with Maddison being out, losing that spark. Another thing that could feed into the bigger chance of the draw. Trossard, they're going to miss that creative spark for Brighton as well. So both teams losing a creative spark. Just a thought, Brighton are very strong at home. The only loss they've had at home in the Premier League this season was against Southampton when they were down to 10 men for a long period.
Yeah, are we being a bit harsh on Leicester? Let us know by tweeting us. Our ats will be in the description below. Up next, Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. Emmett, is there any other option here than a Liverpool win?
I don't think so anyway, but the prices are 6-1, 6-1 Palace, 7-2 the draw, and 2-5 Liverpool. Liverpool's results away from home have been a bit better than their performances. They were somewhat fortunate to beat Sheffield United and Southampton earlier in the season and could easily have lost and dropped points to Man United and Aston Villa. However, I really don't see Palace troubling them here. Hodgson tends to set his team up very passively against the bigger teams, and they didn't trouble either Chelsea or Man City in their recent matches. Like Liverpool -1 over evens is the way I'd look here. Also worth noting that I think Andy Robertson's likely to be out here. So if we were to look at James Milner's price to be carded, if he replaces Robertson at left back, Milner's agility isn't what it was, and at 33 could struggle against the likes of Zaha or Andros Townsend. He was sent off for 2 yellows when the two teams played at Anfield last year.
For sure. Dan, Liverpool, they've just looked stunning this season, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. But points-wise, they've grinded a lot of matches out as well, and I can see them doing that here as. Looking at you look at their match price and you think, well, 2-5 looks a bit short with Salah possibly being out and Robertson could be out, Matip as well. I mean, that's 3 big players for Liverpool. But you look at Palace, they're the second lowest scorers in the Premier League. Where are their goals going to come from here? You got against Virgil van Dijk there at the back for Liverpool, great goalkeeper as well. So I just think Liverpool get the job done. Another one where they're going to grind out here, and I'll back them to win an under 3.5 goals. His odds against that looks a good bet to me.
That's a solid bet. Dan mentioned there the key players that Liverpool might have out. Can Palace maybe see them pouncing here?
I'm going to go for the draw.
Are you?
I just think that Palace have. Over the last couple of years, have done. Not always, but but they've done quite well against Big Six teams. They are set up to play against them. I think just in terms of the way that Hodgson, quite a dour sort of man, and it's going to be everyone behind the ball. Can Liverpool break them down? I know Liverpool had this magic way of getting players to miss out on international matches and then come back, for the next Premier League game. So I am doubtful as to just how doubtful Robertson and Salah and some of the others are. But they did have a lot of injury withdrawals. Now, maybe some of them are genuine. And if it's not a full-strength Liverpool team, I just wonder. I couldn't back them at 2-5, that's for sure. And this is a team that needed a last-minute winner at Aston Villa. Palace are probably a little bit better than Aston Villa. Sheffield United, it took a goalkeeping error for them to win that game. There was a fluke goal against Burnley. What I'm saying is Liverpool aren't all that. No, they are. They've proven themselves this season to be the best team around. But even the best teams, as Manchester City have shown, don't win every week. So I'll be opposing Liverpool.
Well, I'm sure Bruce will be down there at the weekend cheering the boys on. He'll be back next week for the Football Postcast, maybe celebrating a draw. Who knows? It's Everton versus Norwich next. A long old trip up for the Canaries. Emmett, what are we looking like here?
So Everton are 4-11, the draw 4-1. And Norwich are 7-1. Norwich's form since the Man City victory has obviously been dreadful, losing 6 their last 7 with all of those losses coming by more than a single goal. And like the Watford defeat was a pretty dispiriting performance, I thought. Didn't create as much as you'd think, especially when Watford went down to 10 men. And they've only scored 1 away goal all season. Having said all that, I'm reluctant to trust Everton at short prices, and I could still see things going wrong for Marco Silva in pretty short order. So the way I'd look would be a speculative punt on Ben Godfrey to score any time at 20-1. He scored 4 goals in the Championship last year and nearly scored against Watford. I think he can take advantage of Everton's set-piece struggles.
I think I'll have a quid on that. Dan, I've seen Norwich away from home 5 times this season, travelled thousands of miles, and have yet to see them score. 7-1 though, we're not that bad, are we?
Well, I think you are going to score this time.
Hey, there we go.
There you go. I'll just
Small wins.
Unfortunately, my tip though is Everton to win and both teams to score. The confidence, I think, has been a key issue with Norwich recently. They have been getting a lot of their better players back from injury now. The squad is a lot healthier than it has been 3 or 4 weeks ago. I thought against Watford, until Watford got the second goal, Norwich actually played all right. I thought they had most of the game and some nice passing patterns. Looked like football was coming back a little bit. The second goal just killed them. And as Emmett mentioned, against 10 men, I just think confidence by that stage had gone. Confidence won't be a problem though for Timo Pukki. He's got 3 goals for Finland on international duty. So there is a threat there. And Everton don't keep many clean sheets. Kept 1 clean sheet in the last 10 Premier League games. So I fancy Everton to win, but Everton to win and both teams to score.
Have Everton turned a corner, Mark?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, they did play much better against Southampton, but 1 game doesn't change the direction a club is heading. And also, I think it's fair to say that Southampton played their part in sort of Everton being better than them at St Mary's. But in saying, I think Everton will win the game. I wouldn't put them in Ackers or anything like that, but sort of 2-0 correct score, which it's been a favourite one of Norwich so far away from home. They've lost 4 of their 5 Premier League away games by 2-0. The only away goal they got was that consolation at Liverpool, when I think there was a freshness and an upbeatness to their play which has disappeared. And that can happen to newly promoted clubs. Once you kind of lose that feeling of winning, it can be difficult to regain it. I mean, Dan has mentioned about Pukki being on good form. I was taking that in terms of Finland. I mean, he hasn't scored for Norwich since the City game, but also the fact that he played a couple of times on international duty. I mean, it's not easy playing up front for Finland, and there was a lot that went into them qualifying for the Euros. I just wonder if he's maybe feeling the pinch a little bit. It's difficult to play up front, pretty much on your own as well for Norwich. So, I think it could be another difficult afternoon, I'm afraid.
But at least Pukki isn't injured.
Okay, well, yeah, there is that. Yeah.
Up next, it's Watford against Burnley. Watford picked up their first win of the season against Norwich, who we've just talked about before the international break. They take on Burnley. Emmett, what are your thoughts here, mate?
So Watford are 5-4, the draw is 9-4, and Burnley are 11-5. Just a word on Dwight McNeil here. Only Kevin De Bruyne has more assists in the Premier League this year. And since he came into the team for Burnley in December of last year, Burnley were 18th in the league at the time. They scored 19 goals in 20 games and were certainly under threat for relegation. Since he came into the team, they stayed up comfortably, and this year they're a solid kind of mid-table attack. I think he's a really impressive player. At 19, looks an excellent prospect. However, I think he'll find it tough here against a Watford team that have been tighter defensively under Quique Sanchez-Flores since suffering that 8-0 defeat at Man City. They've 3 clean sheets in their last 5 games. I think 4-5 under 2.5 goals. The way I'd look here.
Yeah, Dan, I was really impressed with Watford against Norwich. I thought they looked the real deal.
They played better, didn't they? I mean, Capoue made a difference. The midfield with him and Doucouré in there is so much better than it was previously. Chalobah still, I don't think, has got over his injury problems properly, and he's not really up to the pace. So that makes a big difference. The other big difference could be in this game with Deeney. He's probably ready at the start. He was on the bench at Norwich. And I think with Deeney up front alongside Deulofeu, they're going to be a much stronger team, and with that midfield improved as well. However, I think at the moment it's early days in the revival. They've only won 1 game, and I don't think I'll be rushing a back Watford at a shade of odds against. So I think the match price are about right. I'm going to just going on the Deeney angle of him, possibly starting. Deulofeu has got confidence, great finish he took there against Norwich. Playing with Deeney, he's got even more likelihood of scoring goals. I'm going to go for him to score the first goal at 11-2.
Mark, what are we thinking?
The draw. I mean, I
like the draws today.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of difficult games. I'd certainly be, in most of them where I've said about the draw, I'd be looking to take the favourites on, I think. Or certainly, I know a lot of people like to sort of build weekend accumulators. I wouldn't be putting a lot of these Premier League favourites in there. I think there are some vulnerable ones this weekend, including Watford. I mean, they have only won 1 game. They are better than sort of league points tally would suggest. I think most people would agree with that. But Burnley, all of their defeats have come against teams currently in the top 6, and that includes Sheffield United. But the others were all against, the best, the elite in English football. So Watford are definitely not that. And I think this is a kind of game where if they set their stall out to be defensively solid, have Watford got enough about them to go and break them down? I think that Sanchez Flores is quite a negative coach, and they may sort of cancel each other out.
Some sound advice on the 3 o'clock kickoffs there. We'll get straight into an absolute corker, 5:30 on the Saturday, Manchester City against Chelsea after the break.
Everything is better when it's bigger. Paddy Power's Same Game Multi allows you to combine a number of selections from a single match into one big bet. Check out the Same Game Multi tab and get building your bet. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. Thank you so much for tuning in once again this week. We've just gone through the 3 o'clock kickoffs and now we'll move on to Manchester City against Chelsea. It's the Saturday evening fixture on Sky Sports. This one has the potential to be an absolute corker, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think game of the season potentially. So Man City are 2-5 favourites. The draw 7-2, and Chelsea are 6-1. I'm expecting Chelsea to be pretty competitive here. They're unquestionably a very potent attacking unit. Their XG is second in the league, even ahead of Liverpool, only City ahead of them. And I think they have the ability to kind of to play through City's press in a way that other teams don't, with Jorginho and Kovacic in midfield. And N'Golo Kante's return should add some solidity to keep City out. I think City's defence just can't be trusted as well. Angelino looked very shaky defensively at Anfield, and Guardiola seems to have lost faith in Benjamin Mendy, and Fernandinho and John Stones just aren't a partnership that can be trusted. So having said all that, I think expecting a very high scoring game here. I think both teams scored over 2.5 goals, and 8-11 is a very, very solid bet. And then I'd look at Chelsea over 1.5 goals, 2-1 or better. I think Chelsea will have a right go here, and I think expecting a very exciting game.
Yeah, definitely. Really looking forward to this, Mark. I was shocked, though, to see Chelsea as long as 6-1.
Yeah, I think the reason for it is that if you sort of look at their form, and I'll put that in inverted commas because, it's not over. The last 6 wins in the Premier League have been against teams from 10th downwards. And, you can say a team's won 6 in a row, but they haven't beaten Man City 6 times in a row. And so, because you can beat Newcastle at home doesn't mean you can beat Newcastle. You can't beat Man City away, So I think it's a very different game. So that's one thing to bear in mind. I think if you have a look at Chelsea's record against the big teams this season, it's not very good. They were beaten, I thought, a little bit unluckily at Stamford Bridge against Liverpool 2-1, but they still were beaten and were a couple of goals down before they launched their fight back. Manchester United have beaten them twice, and Leicester were probably the better side over the 90 minutes in that draw. So they haven't had too many hard away games. You have a look at the teams they've played. Wolves probably the hardest away game Chelsea have had, and they weren't in a great place at the time. The rest of them have been pretty comfortable away games. So this is on a different level to what Chelsea have tested so far, and also Frank Lampard. I think they've got a fighter's chance, really, of sort of landing an upset. The way I'm going to play it, though, is to go for Man City to win 3-1 and 3-2. Split my stakes. I think it will be a very high-scoring game. But Chelsea, I wanted to take Man City on, and I started to look at Chelsea, thinking they've conceded 17 Premier League goals, and they haven't played against too many good sides yet, and that's a lot of goals to have conceded without playing too many good teams. And then I went even further back. They've only kept 1 away clean sheet domestically in the whole of 2019, and that quite remarkable, really, that they're as high and doing as well as they are. I like them in midfield. Tammy Abraham has scored the first goal 6 times this season, so if you're looking for a first goal scorer punt, he might not be the worst one. But City, for some of their problems, they've won 22 of the last 24 home games. I still think they are, if they're not the best team in the Premier League, they're certainly level with Liverpool. I thought they played really well at Anfield, and just tight things went against them. And I think they'll probably win a really high-scoring game.
Stats galore. Dan, Chelsea, as Mark mentioned there, maybe haven't beaten the top teams in the last 6 games, but winning breeds confidence, and the fans around the club are buzzing at the moment, aren't they?
They are. I wouldn't be totally shocked if Chelsea got a result, but I agree with Mark, actually. The more I looked at the fixture, and you're looking to try and get against City, and then I've actually gone full circle now, and I'm going to go for Man City double result at evens. And when you look at the reason I'm saying that, we look at their home record since start of the 17-18 season, when they've been getting nearly 100 points, is they won 38 in the Premier League, drawn 3, lost 3. So when you put that into the context of the prices, are they such poor value? And we talk about the defence. I've criticised their defence. I don't think it's far from perfect, but it's actually, they've got a better defensive record than Chelsea's. They've let in 13. Chelsea have let in 17. So, for all of their weaknesses, their defence statistically is slightly better. And for me, they're far better going forward. They've got much more weapons in attack. And I just think this is a game they're going to really want to strike back after the Liverpool result. Didn't play that badly in that game, even though the result went against them. And I think this is the game when they're going to put a marker down and win well.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, the boys still fancying Manchester City. On to Super Sunday then, just the one game this week, but it's got potential to be a really good one. It's Sheffield United against Manchester United. Emmett, Sheffield United have been really, really strong this season, haven't they? Can you see them maybe causing, well, I'm not sure if it is an upset here.
I can, yeah. I think the match prices are Sheffield United 13-5, the draw 21-10, and Man United at evens. United's last 10 away Premier League matches going back to last year, they've won 1, drawn 3, and lost 6. And in those 10 games, Arsenal were the only top 7 opponent they've played, and the only win came against the Norwich team that were really struggling. And it's not just the losses; the performances against Bournemouth, Newcastle and West Ham this season were really dreadful, where United would just let the games drift and play with very little intensity and minimal control in midfield. I think United have definitely played better in their results this year, but they have a lot to prove away from home. Sheffield United are a very hard side to beat. I think they're a very solid defensive team. I can see them sitting deep and frustrating United's pacey players like Rashford, James, Martial, etc. And I think United should be a bigger price than evens. I'd look at Sheffield United here, even straight away at 13-5. I think it's a reasonable bet.
No, I agree, Emmett. Mark, as well as Sheffield United playing some really nice football this season, Bramall Lane is such an intimidating place to play football, isn't it?
It really is, and I think Arsenal saw that on that Monday night football where they lost. Liverpool had a right old battle, and Liverpool were better than Manchester United, that's for sure. And it was only a Henderson, I wouldn't say uncharacteristic mistake, because I remember he does make some big ones, but he's also, I still think, a top goalkeeper, and he makes some match-winning or point-saving saves like he did against Spurs from Lucas Moura at the end of that game, just before the international break, when Sheffield United got a deserved draw against Tottenham. They probably deserved their draw at Chelsea. They beat Arsenal. They probably could have got something out of Liverpool as well. I think that once they start losing matches, and if they get some injuries, and Egan went off for Ireland, so I don't know about his fitness, it could change. They could have a Norwich-style situation where you start to lose faith in what you're doing and everything becomes a little bit more difficult. But at the moment, you couldn't argue too much against where they are in the Premier League, and I think this is a really difficult game for Manchester United, and I won't be backing them at evens. I think Sheffield United and draw double chances is the way to go.
Dan, are you in the Chris Wilder fan club as well?
Oh, I mean, he's the person that you've got to credit for. The squad, they've still got a lot of players that played in League One with them. I mean, what he's done with that team, and he's not only the fact that the results that he's got, they do play some really good football as well, very expansive football. And look, you're thinking, am I being crazy here? But when for a moment there, when Pochettino was gone, I looked down at his price and I was thinking, would I be too fed up if he got the job? And
15, 20 years ago, he would have got it, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was sort of what your teams used to do.
Yeah, and it's just not fact. I mean, you look at Spurs. Probably two of the greatest managers have been Yorkshiremen, haven't they? Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw's. But irrespective of where they come from, he's just done such a fantastic job there. And really, you do wonder what would he be able to do with a big club with more resources. And it's not as if some managers, they do well on low budgets, but you can point to the style of football. The style of football's good as well, and very attacking. But on the game, although they've got an attacking style of football, his squad and his players lack the quality of a lot of the other teams in the division, and that's why they don't score that many goals. So that's where I'm going with this. I'm going to go for the draw. I mean, Sheffield United's home games, they've scored 6 and conceded 4 at home. They haven't actually had a draw yet, but if you're not scoring that many, you're not conceding that many, it does increase the chance of a draw. Man United, we know, don't score a lot of goals. I just think it's a hard game for them, and maybe they'll have to settle for a point.
That would have been brilliant, wouldn't it? Chris Wilder in the Tottenham documentary.
Well,
that would have been.
Yeah, I mean, you would have got some straight answers. I think that's for sure.
Definitely. Monday Night Football, then it's Aston Villa taking on Newcastle, 8 o'clock on Sky Sports. Emmett, this is going to be a tough one to call, I think.
Absolutely. The match prices are Villa are even money, the draw 23-10, and Newcastle 11-4. I think there's a couple of kind of key injury notes here. One would be obviously Jack Grealish being back for Villa would be a huge boost. I think when they played at Wolves in their last match, they were without himself, Heaton, and Bjorn Engels, and they did look definitely a diminished side. And then Jamal Lascelles is definitely out with an injury, and Fabian Schär may also be out. We lost for Newcastle. I think it's hard to have that much confidence in either team. Villa have actually conceded the most shots in the league, and they've conceded the same amount of goals as Everton from set pieces, which is top the league. So I think they're definitely a vulnerable favourite here. But I look in the markets I look at would be possibly the card markets in the Premier League this year. Teams are averaging 1.66 cards a game. In the 12 games Villa have played this year, their opponents have averaged 36 yellows, 4 reds. They've 2 of the top 3 most fouled players in the Premier League in Grealish and John McGinn. I think it's to do with players who dribble so much, like Grealish, McGinn, Zaha, etc. Always get fouled more often, and that's especially the case in the middle of the pitch with games more congested. So if you can get over 2.5 Newcastle cards at close to even money, that's worth a look. Red card market's also worth a look. And given Villa's struggles at set pieces, Kieran Clark's worth a look in the goal score betting. He scored 5 goals in his last 16 league games, which is incredible. And one bookmaker has him 16s anytime, which is definitely worth a bet.
Sounds really good. Mark, even money on Villa, I can't see any value in that, is there?
No, there isn't. I think a couple of options here. You could just sort of lay Villa and back Newcastle or the draw double chance. I think I'm just going to take a chance on Newcastle winning the game, actually. I backed them, tipped them for relegation, and I think Steve Bruce is doing an okay job, better than I thought. And I saw them at West Ham, and they played really well and had 9 shots on target. They could have been 4, 5, 6 up. They got 3-0 up, but it was one-way traffic. They then had 9 shots on target against Bournemouth as well. I think earlier on in the season he was way too negative in terms of what he was doing, and Joe Ellington was too isolated. Since Almiron and St Maxim have played closer to him, they look a much better team, and I think Newcastle are overpriced. If they play with the same adventure that they did in their last couple of games, yeah, I do.
No, I have to agree. Dan?
Yeah, I'm for Newcastle as well. I'm going to go from on the draw no bet. I think it'll be a tight game, but you've got to respect the fact Grealish coming back for Villa may improve them. I would, if Schär is out, I would be less keen on them because I do rate him.
I think, just before we came on, Steve Bruce was probably given more positive bulletin on him, and they've got until Monday to get that.
So I mean, if Schär and Clark are playing at the back, I think that's solid enough there. I also think there's scope for them to grow as a team. When you look at Almiron and St Maxim are playing well, but both of them are having in front of goal. It's not really happening for them. But often with these players, if once one goes in, the floodgates open. So if those 2 start scoring as well, there's even scope for them to grow. I mean, after that excellent performance at West Ham, they've had a test against Bournemouth where they've gone behind, fought back from behind, and won a good 2-1 win at home against a good side. And Villa, I just think the pressure, they're going to be starting to look over their shoulder now. 4 from bottom, 3 defeats in a row. I know they've had tough fixtures, but I think at the prices, Newcastle draw no bet for me.
Yeah, not many people fancying Villa this weekend. Right, let's get into the other leagues, the EFL, across Europe. I know Mark always likes this segment.
Got none.
You've got none?
None other than that. I've got none in Europe.
Okay, well, surprising.
Yeah.
Not as exotic as normal.
No, it's not.
Well, Emma, have you got any exotic kind of tips up for grabs this weekend?
Nothing exotic, just one outright bet worth looking at maybe is just it's been discussed on the team that 40-1 on Borussia Mönchengladbach for the Europa League is worth a bet. They're really pulling up trees in Germany. They've one of the best Joe managers in Europe in Marco Rosa, and I think 40-1 is after worth a tenner if people are looking for an outright bet.
I'm going to class that as exotic. I think I've bet on Mönchengladbach once this season, and I think they lost 4-0 in the Europa League.
Yeah.
Wasn't good. Dan, what about you, mate? Any other tips?
I'll probably have to show you my notes like I do on Countdown, because my European tip for the weekend is Borussia Mönchengladbach away to Union Berlin. They're
Great minds.
even money just looks a good bet to me. Union Berlin are 11th. They've lost 6 of their 11 games. Borussia Mönchengladbach 4 points clear at the top. Great away from home. 4 wins in 5 away. Just looks a big price to me.
I love how you guys kind of make your notes. What's going on with the green pen over there that I see?
No, that's the kids.
That's the kids.
yeah, we're running out of
No,
paper,
I
I had to use that scrap that.
Just hold it up to the camera. It looks like some kind of heat map.
Yeah.
No, I think she just disagrees with one of the two. No, you're way
Definitely
off
on
that
Union
one.
Berlin. Mark, go on then. Tell me what you've got.
I mean, first of all, Chelsea's pronunciation of Union Berlin, the German football fans will be going bonkers. Union. Anyway, in terms of the bets for me, I've got a couple in the EFL. A couple of outsiders I like, actually. Coventry at Sunderland. Sunderland are, I'm not sure home advantage will play much of a strength really for them at the moment. The fans are really not having Phil Parkinson. It's been a difficult start for him. Only 1 win in the last 7 matches. Accrington haven't scored in their last 5 matches in terms of proper games. They beat like the Liverpool Kids. Well, the EFL trophy, the Liverpool Kids. It wasn't even the Liverpool Academy. It was like the B team of the of the Liverpool Academy, because it was played at the same time as the EFL Cup. So take that game out of it. Haven't scored in 5. Bolton's got 4 wins in 5 matches. I think that they look overpriced there. Leyton Orient, some strange goings on with Cole Fletcher going after 29 days. They were beaten by Morden and Tiptree in the FA Cup. They were beaten by Scunthorpe. I thought Forest Green, didn't probably deserve to lose at Plymouth against Plymouth last week, so they might be overpriced as well.
Sounds really good to me. Right, let's get on to my favourite bit of the week. Every week of the Postcast, it's time for the boys' naps.
This will not be beaten.
We've had a really good few weeks with the naps, a few winners in the last month. Emmett, let's get your nap of the week, mate.
Yeah, the nap I'm looking at is Rotherham away to MK Dons. MK Dons have lost their last 6. Their stats are lamentably bad. They are conceding the 2nd most shots in target in the league. Appointing Russell Martin as manager, who's a current player up until the previous manager, Paul Tisdale, departed. Hasn't halted the slide. They've lost their last few games. Rotherham are the 2nd most away points in League One. I think they should have enough here at 10 to 11.
Yeah, definitely. Best of luck to Russell Martin at MK Dons. A thoroughly nice chap. Mark, what's your nap of the week?
I am going to Europe for this. It's to Turin, and it's Inter to win away to Torino. Inter, I think they needed the break. Antonio Conte was saying they were really tired. They were playing a lot of Champions League, high intensity Champions League games. They're in a really difficult group with Slavia Prague, Borussia Dortmund, and Barcelona. But they've only dropped points in 2 Serie A games this season. Perfect away from home. Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez are scoring a lot of goals. And Torino, when they've actually been upped in level, they were beaten 1-0 very convincingly. It was a 1-0 battering against Juventus, 4-0 against Lazio. They're the teams in 1st and 3rd in Italy. Inter split them and can beat Torino.
Brilliant. Dan?
Down in League 2 for me, I'm going to go Swindon, top of the league at home to Mansfield, who are 14th. Swindon, even money, just looks a great price to me. Went top of the league last week, 3-2 win at Salford. Owen Doyle got 2 goals, taking his tally to 16 for the season. Jerry Yates got the other one. He's on 8, and he's joint 2nd in the scoring charts with Beryl Labala of Crawley and Chris Porter of Crewe. So the firepower's amazing. They did lose at home in the Cup to Cheltenham 1-0 in an FA Cup replay, but Owen Doyle wasn't allowed to play there as in terms of his loan agreement. Anthony Grant as well, important midfield player, he wasn't allowed to play as well. So overlook that and oppose Mansfield. There was high hopes for them this season under John Dempster, but they're struggling, 14th in the table. Only had 5 wins in 18 League 2 games. I mean, everybody thought last week against sort of cash-strapped Macclesfield, all sorts of problems they had going into the game. People were thinking that's an absolute certain away win. It finished 0-0. The shot count was 13-5 in Macclesfield's favour. You look at that and you think, where are Mansfield going? Swindon to win this game.
Mansfield barely had a shot in the box. I was looking at sort of more in-depth stats. It was pathetic. And I've backed Mansfield to win League Two. There's the betting slip.
The only thing I can think about when I think of Mansfield is that horrendous signing video when they got Nicky May.
They deserve everything.
Caroline
they get. They do deserve everything.
Thanks so much for tuning once again. Paddy Power will have that up as an enhanced treble. The boys are in great form, so hopefully they continue that. Maddie will be back tomorrow to prove you a fine weekend's cards for the racing, and we'll be back next Thursday for another footballing postcast. Thanks to Mark, thanks to Dan, thanks to Emmett. Hope you have a lovely weekend. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Friends, or maybe more. Earn a 20 quid free bet for every friend you refer to Paddy Power, thanks to our Friends with Benefits programme. Log in to your Paddy Power account and share your referral link to get started. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.